The concepts that I'm going to talk about in this lesson that I'm going to teach you are not going to be fun at first. In fact, some of them are actually going to be painful for some of you, but pain equals growth. So if you do exactly what I say in this lesson today, you are going to see instant results. My name is Adam Schwartz. I've been playing guitar for over 20 years, but most of those years I've neglected to implement the ideas that I'm going to talk to you guys about in this video. I spent most of the time playing the same songs over and over, noodling around, seeing little progression, and I was very inconsistent with my practicing. But now I play guitar pretty much every day. I see daily progression. I can play a bunch of the songs that I thought were impossible for me to play, and I learn new songs and write new songs all the time. The ideas that I'm going to teach you guys today I've shared with hundreds of struggling metal guitarists, and most of them have seen the same results that I have, if not better. So what I'm going to teach you guys in this lesson is how to build stamina and play fast, complex riffs without breaking a sweat. We're going to talk about the right hand, the left hand specifically. I'm going to give you guys exercises for the essential ideas for both the right hand and the left hand, and there will be a Google Drive linked at the bottom of this to where you can access all the tabs and all the playthrough videos of the exercises that I show you guys today so that you can go back and continue to practice them, which is very important. Let's just get right into it. It comes down to conserving energy when playing metal, when playing guitar in general, but specifically metal, because if I'm trying to play like a fast riff, and I want to do that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If I want to play like an entire show, if I'm in a band and I'm playing live and I want to play a bunch of songs, or if I'm just by myself in my room and I want to be able to play like a small concert for my stuffed animals or my kids or whatever, I want to be able to play that fast, that consistent, that well, that clean for 10, 20, 30 minutes straight without taking long breaks. So there's two ways to build up stamina when playing guitar. First of all, you can just practice more and play more and build up the muscles and build up the stamina and be able to play longer. The second way is to conserve energy however you possibly can, because the more energy that you use, the harder it's going to be to play for long periods of time. So let's talk about how we can conserve energy with the right hand. First of all, overall conserving energy, relaxation. You don't want to be tense. So if you are gripping down on that pick tighter than you need to, if you find that your knuckles are white and you're holding that pick tight, and when you're picking from your elbow and you're not picking from your wrist, then that means that you're probably tense. You're probably using way more energy than you need to. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your pick however you grab your pick, and I want you to just strum. You don't have to do anything with the left hand. You can if you want, but you don't have to. This is just an experiment on how hard you're gripping the pick. So just strum some strings up, down, like whatever, however you want to do it. And I want you to pay attention to how much you're gripping that pick. So as you're doing this exercise, I want you to let up on your pick grip as much as you can before the pick falls out of your hands or before it starts to move around. See, like I'm very lightly just holding this pick while I strum. Like it's not going to be the same when you're actually picking. You have to hold it a little bit harder, but I just want you to do this test so that you can kind of teach yourself how hard you need to grip this pick in order to strum the strings, because you don't want to grip that more than you need to. So second is that whenever possible, you want to find a comfortable spot to rest your palm as you're playing guitar, as you're picking. You don't want to have to hold up any body parts necessarily. So I got this idea from yoga. Like I started doing yoga a couple years ago. The first thing that I remember my instructor talking about is that if you're in the position doing a pose to where you have to hold your head up, you have to hold the weight of your head, it's impossible to relax into the pose the way that you want to. So that's the same concept when it comes to playing guitar. If I'm having to hold my arm up or my hand up, it's impossible to relax as much as I want to while I'm playing guitar. So finding a comfortable spot, like on the bridge to where you can rest your hand, and then also your arm on the body of the guitar, is going to make it to where you can relax into your guitar playing a lot easier. This is not always the case. You can't always have your hand resting in one spot because you need to move it around, and we'll get more into that later, but I just wanted to bring up that fact in any situation to where you can find a comfortable spot to rest your hand that is going to benefit you with staying more relaxed and conserving energy. The third way that we are going to conserve energy is by pick angle. So we already talked about pick grip. So obviously as you're picking, you don't want to be gripping down on the pick too tightly, but pick angle is going to have something to do with it as well. So if you look at my pick, right now I have my pick basically straight up and down as I'm doing this. Like, I hope you can see that. I have my pick just straight up and down. That is the worst way to pick. And the reason why is because the tension between your pick and your string is at its all-time high when you have your pick just straight, as you probably would if you had no idea how to pick and you just picked up the guitar as an absolute beginner. That's probably how you would pick, but what you want to do is have a down angle. So in some sort of an angle. In this situation, what we're talking about with these right hand techniques that I'm going to get into, the angle may be slightly different, but most of the time you're going to have a down angle and then also an angle slightly to the left. So I'm really just picking on this edge right here. So now let's talk about some right hand techniques, and I'm going to give you guys some exercises right after this for all of the techniques that we're going to talk about. So the first right hand technique that we're going to talk about is palm muting. So palm muting is essentially when you rest your palm on the strings right next to the bridge, and you just slightly rest it there, and it gives it kind of that like purrs sound, I guess, if you will, which makes a very good metal sounding riff. Further I get away from this bridge, the less you're going to hear that mute. The closer I get to the bridge, the more you're going to hear the mute ring out, and as I get off of the strings, you're not going to hear anything, obviously. So now let's get into down picking. Down picking is probably the first technique, or the first thing that you did when you picked up the guitar. I know it was for me. I think it is for most people. It's kind of instinct to just pick up the guitar and start down picking a few notes, you know. So down picking is like the picking technique that's used in like almost every other picking technique that you're going to find. So most people are much more fluent with their down picking than any other style of picking, like up obviously, like up, I guess up picking would be the other option there. So most people are more fluent with their down picking than up picking. But if you're into like older thrash metal, Metallica, Slayer, that sort of thing, even like Trivium and stuff, they do a lot of down picking. If you want to play those songs the way that they were recorded and written, then spending a little bit more time on your down picking to make that your down picking as efficient as possible and to increase your speed when down picking is going to benefit you. So I'm going to show you guys just a basic down picking exercise real quick. So what we're going to do is just 4 down picks, and this is a technique to where you want to make sure that in most situations you have that down angle and that left angle, unless for some reason you really want to have like a more aggressive down picking sound, then, you know, hike that pick up and pick it more straight, because you can kind of hear that's more aggressive than that. So ultimately, if you do decide that you want to pick that way, it's for a certain reason. It's not just because you don't know how to pick correctly. So just make sure that is kind of what you're thinking about. So for this exercise, we're going to down pick 4 times, rest, down pick 4 times, rest. Do that a few times, and then we're going to down pick 8 times, rest, down pick 8 times, rest, and then we're going to combine the 4 and the 8. So I'll kind of display that real quick. So I suggest that with this exercise, if you want to incorporate this into your practice routine, which I would recommend you do if you don't have a very fast down pick, I would play it to a metronome, first of all, and I would make sure that the speed of the metronome is somewhere to where you're not having to tense up so much to where you're picking from your elbow. So again, we want to make sure that we're as relaxed as possible in every part of our body, but specifically since we're talking about the right hand. So if you find yourself playing so fast that you're tensing up, then you want to decrease the tempo on that metronome and then kind of slowly increase it, maybe 5 BPM as you get a little bit quicker. But as you're practicing this, just make sure that you're not increasing that tempo to where you're having to tense up to play it. It's not worth it. You don't want to practice it that way. You want to practice this exercise, every exercise that I give you, you want to practice it with a relaxed right hand. The second technique that we're going to talk about today is alternate picking. You know, obviously we probably know what alternate picking is when you go down, up, instead of just down, down, or down, down, up. It's down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So there's a couple different alternate picking concepts that I want to discuss in this. The first one is what I call aggressive alternate picking, and that's just alternate picking on the lowest string. I call it that because a lot of the bands that use this, specifically like Lamb of God, it's a very aggressive metal style of alternate picking. They're really digging in. It's kind of something like this. This is a situation to where you want to find a good spot to rest your hand and just find a rhythm of however quick the tempo is of what you're playing. You just want to find that rhythm, find a good spot for your hand to rest, and you want to make sure that you're picking from your wrist, which is key. I kind of mentioned that before, but anytime you're picking, you want to pick from your wrist. You want to avoid the finger movement picking. You want to avoid the elbow movement picking. I know that there's people out there who pick that way, that thrive off of that. Zakk Wylde is a great example of somebody who picks from his elbow when he gets up to fast speeds, but it's a very rare situation that somebody can pick faster and better with the elbow or with the fingers than they do with your wrist. That's going to be the ideal joint that you want to pick from. And then as you do this exercise that I'm about to show you, I want you to really emphasize that up pick, because as we talked about, most people have practiced down picking probably 10 times more than they practice up picking, if not more. So your down pick is going to be much stronger, not to mention that gravity's on your side when you're down picking. So you want to essentially get, in this style of riff, you want to get your up pick to sound as close to the down pick as possible, as aggressive as you can. It's going to always sound a little bit different, but you want to get it as close as possible. So really focusing on that up pick when we do this exercise is going to benefit you with this style of picking. So the exercise, we're just going to start going. You don't have to use your left hand for the first part of this exercise. It's going to be just a 1-2 down up, rest, down up. And then we're going to go 4 picks instead. So down, up, down, up. So for the last part of this exercise, we're going to incorporate the left hand a little bit just on this low string like we talked about. And it's going to be between the 5, 6, 7, and 8 frets. So we'll start out with 8, 5. And then we'll go, so it'll be 8, 5, 6 opens, 8, 5, 6 opens. And then 7, 5, 6 opens, 7, 5, 6 opens. Then 6, 5, 6 opens, 6, 5, 6 opens. The idea is that you're really focusing on the right hand, so if incorporating the left hand is screwing you up when doing this exercise, you don't need to worry about focusing on the left hand. For any of these right hand exercises that I'm going to show you guys today. The next right hand technique that we're going to talk about is galloping. So if you don't know what galloping is, it is essentially when you play 3 notes with a rest, and if you get it going quick, it sounds like kind of a horse running or a horse galloping. It's kind of like the Rain and Blood Slayer song is a very good example of galloping. Battery from Metallica. There's a bunch of amazing galloping riffs out there. They're in modern metal, they're in old metal, they're in Iron Maiden songs, whatever. So it is very common to hear this in metal. So it's a good technique to understand and to get to where you can play it very proficiently. So the most efficient way that I have found to pick the gallop is down, up, down, and then you rest. And you always start on the down pick. And that second down pick, so if after I go down, up, this next down pick, I don't even let my pick go all the way past the string. I just kind of pick it and let it stay there because I already know that I have to start on that down pick, so there's no reason to go past that string and have to go back up. That's another way to conserve energy, is to try to minimize any movement that is unnecessary. Like for the right hand, that would be the situation to where you're picking further than you really need to. So this is what the gallop looks slow. This is a technique that you pretty much are going to want to always use a palm mute with. That's generally how it's done in metal. So for this exercise, we'll gallop once, gallop once, rest, and then we'll start doing 2 gallops, rest, 2 gallops, rest, and then we'll incorporate the 1 gallop, rest, 2 gallops, rest, and then just a consistent gallop. So the next idea that we're going to talk about, which I actually forgot to talk about here a second ago when we were talking about aggressive alternate picking, is alternate picking across multiple strings. It is going to be different. So this is a situation to where you don't want to have your hand planted somewhere. You want it to be able to move. This is where a lot of people struggle when they're picking between multiple strings, is that they try to switch strings with their wrists. So that means that their hand continues to rotate and move. You don't want that. You want your hand to stay consistent in the same position that it is all the way up and all the way down the strings. So in order to do that, you need to switch strings with your elbow and your shoulder joint. But you want to continue to pick from your wrist. So it kind of looks like this. So the exercise that I'm going to show you guys for this one, it's essentially what I just did. If you want to incorporate the left hand, you could do like a 1-2-4 or 1-3-4, and just like all the way up and down. Or you can just incorporate the right hand and not worry about the left hand, and just essentially down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and then up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And I find as I'm going up the strings like this direction, I have that down angle, and as I'm coming up, it's more of an up angle for me. So you kind of want to maybe experiment with that and see what works best for you. So the last technique for the right hand that we're going to talk about is string skipping, which is essentially when you play between multiple strings. This is pretty straightforward. I mean, you can string skip just down picking. You can string skip alternate picking. I prefer to alternate pick string skipping. I think mainly because alternate picking has always been easier for me since I've learned it. But I would definitely suggest that you practice it in both ways, down picked and alternate picked. Depending on how many strings you're skipping and how big your hands are, I find myself, if I'm skipping between even just 3 strings, that I am using my elbow joint and my shoulder joint just slightly. As I pick, I'm not just using my wrist to do this movement. I can, but it is uncomfortable and it seems like I have to like kind of reach for it. So just that slight movement with the elbow is it really helps me out when I'm playing string skipping riffs. So the exercise that I'm gonna have you guys do today, and I forgot to mention earlier, I'm in drop D tuning. You can play in whatever tuning you want. I always suggest that if you are listen to music and the songs that you want to play are mostly in drop tuning, then I would practice in drop D, or I guess whatever drop tuning you feel like practicing in. But if it's standard tuning that you mostly listen to, that you're mostly into, then I would stick to standard tuning. So if you're in drop tuning, the chord that I have set up for you to form in order to play this exercise is just simply like a minor triad, which is you bar the bottom 2 strings here on the 5th fret and then go over to the 8th fret of the D string, the 4th string, and you're just playing those 3 notes, and that's essentially just a minor chord. So if you're in standard tuning, you could just do a power chord, which is just on the 5th fret of the E string, the 7th fret of the A, and then 7th fret of the D. So this exercise, you're essentially just playing between these 3 strings. So you'll go 6th string, 4th string, 6th string, 5th string. And then the second part of this exercise, you're going to down pick twice, and then 4th string, down pick twice, 5th string. and then actually there's a rest in between that, so it goes. And then the last section of this exercise, and you can practice these separately. You don't have to do all of them in a row. You don't have to do all of them at all if you don't want to. But the last section of this is kind of a mixture between those two. So we start out with the down picking twice to the fifth, down pick twice to the, to the fourth, and then down pick twice to the fifth. And there's not going to be a rest between that. And then we go into just the alternate picking, string skipping. So that section looks like this. So the entire exercise looks like this. And you're welcome to palm mute that. You're welcome to not palm mute. I would suggest that the 2 down pick section here that you palm mute those down picks and then leave the other notes open, because that's a lot of the times that's how metal riffs are written. Okay, so that is all that we're going to talk about for the right hand today. So essentially, ways to conserve energy. That's really the point: building up stamina, being able to play as long as you can without getting tired and without being tense. You want to make sure that you're relaxed. So the pick angle, less tension between the pick and the string, finding a spot so that you can relax, and then just minimizing movement from string to string as best you can is going to be a few ways that you can conserve energy and to be able to play ultimately longer.